Hi everyone, my name is Guido di Pasquale and I'm the Managing Director at Partners for Automated Vehicle Education in Europe. So welcome to this second PAVE Europe Virtual Panel. Today we have a great opportunity to talk about a topic that has gained significant attention in recent years as cities in Europe and around the world, I would say, have been exploring ways to improve their public transportation systems. The integration of on-demand AVs, autonomous vehicle services, into public transport systems has the potential to revolutionize the way we move around our cities and also rural areas. Not only in terms of first and last mile, but also considering new type of vehicles tailored for the changing needs of passengers. All stakeholders play important roles, the organizing authorities, the public transport companies, new mobility service providers, AV technology provider, demand responsive transport systems provider, and so on and so forth. And today, to talk about that, we have three amazing panelists with us. Christian Lichtmannecker from Mobileye. Hello, Chris. Freya Hofmann from Loki, Digital Public Transport. And Lars Gunnar Lundestad from Ruter, Public Transport Authority in Oslo. So thank you so much for joining us. Yeah, let's start. Let's start with introducing yourself with a general overview of your involvement in the AV space. I would start with Freya. Hello, Freya. Could you tell us about Yoki and about the mission of Yoki and what's your role there?
Sure. Yeah. Firstly, thank you, Guido, for inviting me to be on the panel, and hi to everyone on the call. We just joined PAVE Europe quite recently, and I'm happy to be here on our first session together. My name is Freya, and I work at Yoki, as was said. Yoki is a software company that is 100% backed by Deutsche Bahn. And our mission is quite simply to connect people and shape the future of public transport. So our core product is the on-demand software platform that enables over 100 on-demand ride-sharing or ride-pooling services across Europe and has been used by almost 3 million passengers. And in terms of autonomous, Yoki has been a pioneer in enabling kind of the first pilot projects of autonomous mobility in public transport in Germany, starting in 2017, actually. And now we're moving towards an era of next generation tech and services. And one highlight that I'd like to mention is that we are working on is in the Rhine-Main area in central Germany, where we will enable a level 4 on-demand service running at normal speeds together with a strong set of partners, including Mobileye. And now in terms of my role, I'm product manager for autonomous mobility. So my job is to ensure that in the context of AVs, our platform product and the according user front ends are ready to scale. And to do this, I'm not really bound to any specific geography, but rather focus on understanding the overarching needs of operators and passengers to shape our product vision and build partnerships from there. So nice to meet you all and looking forward to the discussion today.
Thank you, Freya, and welcome. And Lars Gunnar, you are from Ruter. Could you tell us a bit more about what Ruter is and what you do there?
Yes, thank you, Guido, and thank you for inviting me to this talk. First of all, Ruter, as you said, is a public transport authority in the greater Oslo area. That is the capital region of Norway, and also serving 25% of the Norwegian population with public transport. And quite basically, we administrate and orchestrate all types of public transport, including subway, trams, bus, paratransit, bicycle, micromobility, and also some train services. And our vision is really to create sustainable mobility for all. And one of the ways to do that, in both sustainable in terms of environmental, but also in terms of the cost perspective, we have trialed autonomous vehicles since 2019, and have quite ambitious plans for providing public transit with AVs. And me, again, I'm the program manager of this AV program. I've been doing so since this last 3 years. So happy to make this happen, and we're going to discuss more about that part later, I guess. Thanks.
Thanks a lot, Lars, Gunnar, and welcome to this panel. And then Chris, you are from Mobileye, founding member of PAVE Europe. Maybe you can tell about what Mobileye is and your role. And also, I would like to ask you, what was your motivation to found PAVE Europe? Why?
Sure. Yeah. Thank you, Guido, first of all, for the invitation. Yeah. So Mobileye is a leading company in the area of ADAS, advanced driver assistance systems, but also autonomous driving technology. I work at Mobileye in the mobility as a service business unit. It's not the ADAS system, but when it comes to level 4 technology, and my role is to enable and facilitate the rollout and deployment of driverless vehicles. And we're doing so with various different partners in different regions, vehicle manufacturer, but also vehicle operators, and for all different use cases. So robotaxi, ride-hailing, delivery, autonomous public transportation. Your second question, we work on all these different challenges to make full autonomy a reality. It's like business and legal and technical and regulatory challenges. However, there's also the challenge of the social acceptance. And what we see is that there are many misconceptions surrounding AV technology amongst end users, citizens, and also professionals. And that's why we founded PAVE Europe together with other co-founding members like Waymo, for example, because we believe that it's crucial to educate the public around all these benefits and the potential of autonomous mobility, and help enable stakeholders to make informed decisions about it and embrace this very exciting technology.
Yes, thanks a lot, Chris. Thanks a lot. And now let's move forward to some interesting discussion about the topic of today is integration of AVs, on-demand AVs into public transport network. And I would like to start with Lars Gunnar as a public transport authority, as an organizing authority. And we can consider Ruter as a pioneer on the AV space in Europe. You have been carrying out several pilots since a few years. And now you have a new project. You are moving to the next level in the Oslo region, aiming at deploying a large fleet of AVs, which is quite new in Europe, I would say. So could you tell us a bit more about this project that you have in the Oslo region? And also, what are the challenges that you see in this integration of on-demand AVs into the public transport network?
Yes, thanks, and thank you for the kind words. We absolutely do hope we will stay as a pioneer in this market. There's a bunch of challenges just to start there, but still that's kind of secondary. Let's start with the why we're doing and how we think about integrating into the public transit system. As I started earlier, we do have a quite holistic perspective of public transit. I mean, we also consider sustainable mobility for all, movement for all, is really a perspective of if you don't want to move, that's also a part of our mission. That's really the most sustainable way of mobility. So we do think of how can we make people's life better. And as you know, current situation is that we our services are too expensive to produce with large buses and so on. So we have started this testing, and this is the fifth pilot, as you mentioned. We do so together with EU-funded project called Ultimo, and the main how to say actors in that project is Deutsche Bahn and also Swiss TPG. We will start with 15 vehicles from Mobileye and our R&D partner Holo, where we will integrate those vehicles with the public transport system as we have it today. We basically have trams, and we have trains and subway in the northern area of Oslo. We are able to serve something like 2% of the mobility need within a confined area up in north of Oslo, and there we will start to trial these services. We do have very prominent discussions with large companies, and talk with the HR part of the company to figure out how we can support the everyday commute within their company. And we are also talking about how could that be included with you know, picking up kids from school and so on and so forth. So we are going quite hard at solving real life problem with the AVs. So the AVs will be small vehicles, and the reason why we are doing small vehicles is that all our simulations with the actual inhabitants in that area show that we usually have less than 3 passengers on board. So that's why we are starting with small vehicles. And of course, that is not enough. We will expand that project as well with the 2 more vehicle types, testing 2 different, let's say, classic use cases. One of them will be more of the shuttle kind, where we can test the first and last mile needs, and then lastly we'll also test to replace traditional large bus in another area. So basically our main focus is not necessary to just deploy another pilot. We are together with Mobileye testing a full scale in mixed traffic on-demand solution, but we are going to mix it in a way that we can solve the whole mobility need for a set of people in a given area. So that's kind of what we're doing, and we are doing this not as a substitute for the current public transit, but as an additional part of the public transit. And so we are really seeing it from maybe a non-traditional way of a public transit authority. We are seeing this as a way to gain a larger market share. So our end goal and our end vision is to completely remove the need for privately owned cars. And I will get into that later maybe, but we do think that is a ratio of 20 to 30,000 automized vehicles.
Thank you, Lars. Gunnar. That's very ambitious, but it's really moving the AEV services to the next level in Europe mainly, and it's bringing these services to the real people, I mean, to the people as a service that they can really use in their daily life. And now to Chris, Lars Gunnar mentioned that integrating the services, the different services, AV services on demand with public transport. So this is clearly, collaboration is clearly a key element here. Collaboration between all the players, like Ruter, for example, like the authorities, but also other service providers. And I guess you, as Mobileye, you have to make several partnerships and work with public transport companies, for example, and other mobility players. So how is Mobileye working or approaching this collaboration, which is key to bring these AV services into life?
Yeah. Yeah. So first of all, like you said, collaboration is key. We don't believe in owning everything end to end by one player. So this is why we believe in win-win partnerships with players along the whole value chain, autonomous mobility as a service value chain, that creates this new kinds of modes of autonomous transportation. And Mobileye, at its core, we are a technology company. We are not a vehicle manufacturer or an operator, and we also learned to really appreciate the skills and assets that these kind of companies bring with them. And we belong to the world's best, or we believe we belong to the world's best in what we do, and we want to find and collaborate with the best of the best at their respective, place and at the value chain, and doing the part on contributing different building blocks. And this is exactly the reason why we look and like to work with companies like Deutsche Bahn and Naoki, and like Holo and Ruter in Oslo, what Lars Gunnar outlined. Yeah, but it doesn't end there. It's like also a lot of insurance companies, vehicle manufacturer, logistics companies. We need to bring all the different building blocks, tech processes, and so on together to create really attractive services for our future customer. And another crucial thing to add is also when it comes to public transportation, and also this is something we learn over time more and more. Public transportation is very different in all the different regions around the world. It's very different even in different countries in Europe, and there is no one fits all solution for that. And therefore that's why we want to build different blueprints in different partnership setups to introduce AVs into public transport systems around the world. And this is what we are seeking and what we intend to continue doing.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chris. That's very important. And as we are talking about on-demand transport and public transport, Yoki, well, you have as a second name digital public transport, Freya. And I would like to ask you, on-demand transport always starts with the analysis of the mobility needs, because if you have to provide an on-demand transport, you need to know or to plan maybe in advance your services, and you need to know what are the needs of the customers that you are going to serve. So how does Yoki help the companies, the public transport companies and authorities and other technology provider to integrate on-demand EVs into public transport?
Yeah, absolutely. You said it. Public transport is in our name and it's in our DNA. So our goal is always to design services that are really attractive in terms of service quality, but also accessibility, and maybe most importantly, they should fill gaps in the existing public transport offering. So I'd like to kind of highlight two ways. Firstly, as you said, it's about analysis and about finding the kind of the sweet spot for our services. So we always recommend doing these analysis upfront to really understand the local environment before going into the design of the service. And it's an area where our experience coming from driver-based on-demand services really also comes into play, because we have this experience of doing the groundwork, going into the data and building simulations to design the service parameters in the end, to make sure that the services are really tailored to match the user needs. Because also, like picking up on Chris's point, mobility is very different in different geographies. So we need to make the services tailored to the local needs. Yeah, and maybe going into kind of the area of autonomous, I think we've seen in these very early pilot projects in the last few years in Europe that we haven't done so much of this analysis work in the beginning. There have been more like constraints on the ODD in terms of like width of the roads, inclination, etc. And the deployments have also been fairly limited as of now, with like fleet sizes that are relatively small. But going forward, I think there's really a big potential to do more of this analysis work as we go into more scaled deployments. And then I think this will also give a more clear picture of this value that we want to provide to the users in the end. So I think that's the main lever actually through which also acceptance can be increased if we really design the services in a way that they answer to the needs of people. And then secondly, picking up also on this topic of collaboration. Yeah, clearly the services are going to require really close collaboration between multiple players in the value chain. And since we consider ourselves pretty much at the core with our software for booking and ride pooling, we can kind of be considered the glue that holds everything together on the technical side. And that really ranges again along the whole value chain of the service for both the self-driving system, also integrating with vehicles themselves, also with the operator and other players. So we do also collaborate very closely, to give an example, with the vehicle manufacturers, because in the end, we want to give our customers the option to run different kinds of use cases and services on one platform. So we know that will require different kinds of vehicles depending on which situation you are in. Like if you're in the more like towards the city outskirts, you might require a bigger vehicle that can hold more passengers. But if you go towards more rural settings, a smaller vehicle may be sufficient and even more economical actually to connect people to their local train station. So like, to put it simply, maybe you can kind of compare Yoki's strategy to an Android approach, because our operating system will be compatible with different hardware and different partners in terms of, yeah, the vehicle, but also self-driving system, so that we can accommodate different use cases and also accommodate hybrid fleets consisting both of a mix like in driver-based, but also self-driving vehicles.
Thank you, Freya. And do you see any challenges in this integration?
Yeah, for sure. Like, just I think the main challenge is this analysis in the beginning, like getting the data and just getting this in the process and taking the time to do it. Up to now, we've been really pushing to get things on the road, but I think we have to step back, take the time if we want to launch bigger fleets, to also do the analysis in the beginning and then continuously do them later on as well to optimize services as they are running. Yeah,
thanks a lot, Freya. Coming back to you, Lars, Gunnar, with a more general question, I would say, I'm curious to know, and maybe probably our audience is interested to know, why does Ruter believe that public transport, cities and regions in general, need autonomous vehicles? You know, we are in PAVE Europe, we aim at educating the people, the citizens, and the authorities as well on the potential benefit of automated vehicles. And yeah, I'm interested to know from an authority perspective why you believe in that.
Yes, thanks. Yeah, it's a big question, of course, but I think it starts with, without maybe not saying it out too loud, that we don't provide sufficient public transit as of today. I mean, we are not able to compete with the privately owned cars. So when we are stating that we need to compete with a private owned car, it's not for the competition itself, because Ruter, we as a PTA, we don't operate any vehicles. We are only administrating and making sure it solves the need our citizens have. But so we are purchasing their services, and so our goal is to reduce congestions and make our city life better, and also removing unnecessary parking, like curbside parking in the cities and so on. So there's a bunch of things that we know with the private owned car that doesn't make sense. So we need to, and we have seen that there's a constant increase of need of mobility. So we need to reduce that mobility, not necessarily the mobility, but the kilometers driven on our roads. So if we did look at what we call the Oslo study, where we did a simulation, saw that if we introduced privately optimized vehicles, we will most probably double the amount of kilometers driven on our roads, completely breaking down the road infrastructure, and on the other side, trying to cope with that infrastructure build, we will need to invest enormous amount of capital into new roads and so on and so forth. So that doesn't make up. So we have to do something else for the benefit of our citizens and our society, and for the environment, of course. So that's why. And when we did the simulation, we saw that, hey, and I need to go back a little bit, because how do you really compete with a privately owned car? I mean, I have my own car. I can grab my key, go into the driveway and use the car. It takes me something like maximum 3 minutes or something to get that car. And it's private, it's really nice. How to compete with it? Yeah, we need to provide a service that is easier than bringing your own car, cheaper. And basically that means we have done the concept and are ready to do the concept together with Mobileye. You hit order on your smartphone, a vehicle drives up in your driveway less than 2 minutes. And the simulation and our calculations show that we are able to provide that service, think about it, less than 2 minutes response time for all our citizens, with something around 20 to 30,000 AVs. That will completely remove the need for over 600,000 privately owned vehicles. So that's the business case, really. And if you look at the environmental benefits, as a PTA, we are allowed to calculate with that as well. Not only the economical business case, but also the environmental business case. And it's amazing. The biggest challenge, however, is to make sure that people are willing to do ride pooling, or at least share parts of the ride together with other, or with a friendly neighbor. So we are looking to have a ride pooling of 1.67 or something, or greater. That will give us something like 14% reduced kilometers driven, given the amount of kilometers driven today. So that's why it's economical, it's environmental, sane, and that's why we're doing it.
Well, thanks, Lars, and that's yeah, it makes sense, and I think, Chris, from your point of view, from the point of view of Mobileye, how would you realize this vision of Ruter, in the sense that how do you see the future of on-demand AV services into this landscape that Lars Gunnar just envisioned.
Yeah, we see absolutely a great future for these kind of services. I think the benefits of these shared autonomous fleets are tremendous, and I think even Lars Gunnar, he just just touched the peak of the iceberg, right? There are a lot of more benefits that just come naturally with autonomous vehicles if you use them in the right framework and integrate them deeply in public transport. And yeah, we want to support these visions, right? It's we not necessarily need to drive them ourselves. I mean, the benefits are obvious, like there's less CO2, so it's good for the climate. Safety is one that we haven't touched on, that AVs are just better drivers than human drivers, so there will be less accidents, better use of tax money. Lars Gunnar touched that buses today are it's a very very heavily subsidized business, and AVs can make a more attractive also a more attractive price point, attract more paying users, a better business case. So all these kind of visions, I would say, to improve the city, and also repurposing parking spaces, right? But with what, right? Is it restaurants, cafes, gardens, basketball courts, swimming pools? All these cities have these visions and these ideas, and we kind of want to support them. We are not pushing our technology out and say, here we are, and we are requesting the cities how to use the technology, because they know it themselves. They know how they want to develop the city, how citizens and stakeholders want to best develop the city, and we just want to be part of that and enable that. And if like Oslo, for example, has this kind of vision, putting 30,000 AVs on the streets, building an equal, accessible, convenient shared fleet, then we are here to enable this, and we are excited about it, and want to be part of that story.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. And I think this is well connected to the on-demand aspect, on-demand services, or demand responsive transport, so that this can fit or be tailored to the user needs, and not necessarily having fixed line, but really having services that are as easy to use as a private car. And this concept is not that new. It's quite, it's a few years. Even myself, I was working with the on-demand transport many years ago, and I remember that this wasn't really able to fly as a concept because it was subsidized, but there was not a viable business model. So many pilot projects stopped after this. After they were subsidized or the project finished. So I would like to ask you, Freya, has this changed now? What has changed? Because we really need that this service is viable from the economical point of view, and what's the potential or the market potential for it?
Yeah. So firstly, I think I would counter the premise of the question a little bit about DRT not being able to take off at all, because we see that the market for on-demand transport has been growing substantially in Europe, both in terms of the number of services, but also in terms of the fleet size that are being deployed. And that's in a challenging macroeconomic situation. So I think it's growing, but you're right to say that let's look at the business model here, which is for sure going to be changing. And I think first, if we zoom out, all the kind of the macro level, there have been so many things said already that really fuel this change in the business model, like the climate goals that we need to reach, congestion all over, losses in productivity, and also like the quality of life in cities that we want to improve in Europe. And at the same time, as Lars Gunnar said, there's still many people who need to rely on their private car. So we need to improve public transport in a way that's really comfortable, really high quality, so that in the end it's able to be competitive to your personal vehicle. And so when you take these kind of macro ingredients at the moment, you have a strong user need, I think, a really solid value proposition by services. And then also like the political and societal will, I think we have now to expand public transport. Then we have just this last component that the tech is really going to be changing and there's a new generation coming in. So drilling down into the business model, I think the first point that's also important to note is that we have a lack of drivers that's really serious in Europe. And I actually checked the numbers just ahead of the call and read that in Germany, there's a shortage of 87,000 bus drivers expected until 2030. And that's just for bus. And actually, we were just talking in this call that we want to really grow the services. So we actually need automation to make it happen. And then in terms of the business model, you have the effect, of course, that you no longer need the human driver, which is at the moment like more than half of the OpEx of an on-demand service. Instead, you will have like multiple vehicles being supervised by one remote operator. And then you, of course, will still need people on the ground to do cleaning and maintenance on the vehicles in addition to the supervision. But yeah, in summary, I think you can say, you can either take the direction to say, we will be able to deliver services much more cost efficiently, or if you take the other direction, given the same level of spend, of course, you can also really enable a higher level of service with longer hours, with bigger accessibility, higher availability, etc. So there's a huge promise here. And yet I think it's also like you have to be clear that there's still a little bit of work to be done to make this a reality. So I always encourage in my conversations, especially also with PTOs, to really like look urgently at what needs to be done in terms of like building the capabilities to be able to play in this arena like Ruter is doing. And also on the tech side, for sure, on our side, we have work to be done to make the products very mature so that they can be applied to other cases, also other cities, and scale them across Europe. But yeah, in summary, my outlook is that I'm very optimistic about the value that these services can provide. And I just think it's crucial to have this conversation on how it's best implemented in a way so that it's not just about like the aspect of profit optimization, but also about building an overall efficient and sustainable mobility system for everyone.
Yeah, thank you, Freya. Thank you. That's I have a last round of questions, possibly quick answers. Chris, are we as European or European public transport, better sector, are we ready for fully automated vehicles, what we call L4, but let's say highly or fully automated vehicles?
It depends, I guess. So when I look at the readiness of the public transportation sector, you know, it's adoption is similar to that of us customer. So there are, you know, transit agencies that are innovators and early adopters, and they want to be, you know, early on. And then some are just, you know, late and laggards. And of course, there are factors like the bus driver shortage that Freya was mentioning. These naturally drive the whole sector towards autonomous vehicles as a necessity, because they have to solve the problem and find solutions for that. But yeah, I mean, I think for now, fortunately, Mobileye, we are not, you know, close to meeting the demand from innovators that we are seeing right now approaching us, and I think we might have like a supply problem, and we need to maintain kind of waiting lists for vehicles and projects. And I'm confident that, you know, after we have successfully built the first running proof of concepts, of course, with our great partners with Aoki and Ruter in Frankfurt area and in Oslo area, I think everyone else in the public transport sector will naturally follow suit, and the pipeline of autonomous transportation projects in Europe will just continue to grow further and further.
Yeah. So it's important to continue with the with pilots and testing and providing services that as you are doing now.
Yeah, I think one important thing to note is that we don't necessarily do pilots anymore. So what we are doing is the nucleus of a service, and obviously it needs to start small, and we need to do it, but then it's not like a pilot that runs for a couple of weeks, a month, and then stops. It's a starting point for a fleet that will grow and that will expand over time. This is what we focus on. It's not supposed to be seen as a pilot.
Yeah, definitely. And Freya, also, what do you see the biggest potential for fully automated vehicles in public transport? What's your point of view?
Yeah, I think there's so much potential in areas where they create really like lots of value for society, because we do already have generally quite good public transport in city centers. So I would hate to see those services cannibalize that to create more traffic, but rather, yeah, I think about smaller towns, suburban areas, maybe even rural areas, to connect them to the existing public transport and support this growth. Because even if city centers are going to try to reduce car traffic within the urban areas, we still need, as Lars Gunnar said, solutions in the end for people like commuters who currently just don't have so many alternatives to their private car. So yeah, just creating offerings that are really attractive and high quality from the customer perspective.
Yeah. Thank you, Freya. And we tackled this aspect in our first panel, which is accessibility. I would like to ask you, Lars Gunnar, we have the on-demand AV services that be integrated into public transport, but how do we ensure that these services are accessible to all the members of the community, regardless, for example, income or things like that?
Yes, thanks. I will start with saying that we have done integrated AVs and with wheel shares and so on. Tested a bunch of automation, automated shares and automated ramps and all these kind of things. So you can get some way, but not all the way. The last thing, and we need to look at different form factors to solve that problem. And given that we expect to have 20 to 30,000 vehicles, we can easily have 10 to 20% of these vehicles specialized for special needs. And also maybe half of them, maybe more, we don't really know yet, will be most certainly manned with a special trained human that can help different people with different kinds of disabilities. So we believe in a diverse fleet of vehicles, not too diverse, that will kill the business case, of course, but sufficient diverse to provide an amazing service to people with special needs. And I do think that will most certainly outcompete the traditional large buses with a wheelchair ramp that nobody really likes as of today. So we have great confidence in the future with multiple form factors.
Yeah. Thank you, Lars Gunnar. And now, unfortunately, our time is up, but I would like to thank you, Freya, Christian, Lars Gunnar, for joining our conversation today. Very interesting. Just a reminder, the video will be available on the YouTube channel, on the website, and also soon on PAVEcast. So thank you all for joining us today, and looking forward to seeing you next time. Bye.